The Private Label Pod with your host Paul Mooney, brought to you by Private Label People.
You just listen and leave the rest up to us.
Hello everybody, welcome to the podcast. We have Esso and Robert with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well, dude. What about you?
I'm okay. How are you, Esso?
I'm doing great.
Good to hear. In the words of an ex-manager of mine, what the heck have you two been doing for the last 2 weeks?
This guy, I've actually now become intrigued as to what manager said that, but that's something that we can discover either on another episode or later on this evening. Quite a lot to put it into a number of words. There's been a hell of a lot going on, a lot of planning on things that are kind of already there, a lot of solidifying on things that, you know, maybe just weren't 100% kind of nailed on, as we would say. And then also, as always, there's been a lot of innovation and a lot of idea thinking about, is kind of what I'd say. But so I'm sure you've got some bits you'd add into that.
Yes, I think we've done a lot of laughing that's happened. There's been a lot of laughter. There's also been a lot of biting your lip, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
No, there has.
There has, yeah. Robert has tried to break my brain several times during our period here. It has been successful. I think we also found out that even giving us more time, we just continue to innovate. We continue to grow. And I think that's a big part of the fun of this. But there's a real excitement that happens with that and energy that follows.
I think it's also something you said, Essa, whenever we were having a meal the other night, and you correctly said, and we've talked about it many times, and I've talked about it with many people many times, but you said, like, whenever you're in a business that's your own, there's always work to do. You know, you could start at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to 12 midnight in the evening if you allowed yourself to. But that also, with that, means that there's a lot of enjoyment coming from it. It's not a chore. Whereas whenever you're in a 9 to 5, you've got to deal with a manager, Paul, that asks you what you've been doing. It is a chore. And that's why people like clocking in and even more so clocking out. And actually, that's not just a punch clock on a wall. I think that is mentally, you got to prepare yourself. You got to get the momentum to go into a job and face that manager. And then you mentally just clock out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I get you. But I take it you found a real benefit in being here in person, Esso?
I do. The idea that I've heard, through time is if you're doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That I've had glimpses of that over my career and different things that I've done. I've had moments of that because I really particularly liked a specific project I was working or a team I was leading. But I've never had what Robert was discussing where it's just our own thing fully. And so that idea, that energy that comes along with that is immense, and it generates more. I have had to learn how to shut off, because if I don't, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and my brain will turn on. That's not good for anybody around me. You can speak to Emily about that on a later podcast. But being here in person there's something that just happens for us when we're all together in a room. The innovation that Robert talked about, I mean, we could do a week on just innovation without any other topic, I'm sure of it. That is super exciting. It breathes energy for when we have to go back, because we all have marching orders leaving here. You know, we have jobs to do. We've talked about doing the right thing, and sometimes the right thing is more difficult. So some of the tasks at hand are a bit more difficult that have to take place. It's going to take focus and energy. Having this time together to direct that and know where we go from here, it's you can't measure that, I don't think.
I think as well, it's like thinking about that and people listening, that's exactly what you want to have inside your own private label business. You want to have that 3 a.m. waking up. You want to have that total commitment, immersion, obsession, all of those different things. Because for me, I just don't understand anything else. I don't understand how it could be any other way. How can you decide to clock in to being an entrepreneur? How do you clock in to running your own business? Because then if you're clocking in, you're going to have to clock out. Well, when does that happen? Now, there's a caveat there in that you can't be just completely always on, or else you get like ESO and you don't sleep and you wake up at this, that and the other. There has to be a process, but you should always be on standby, right? It's like your television is never really off. It's always on standby. Your fridge freezer, it's always on standby, even if you're not opening the doors. So that's the way you want to be. You always want to be on standby, ready to just turn on at any given moment.
It's very different running your own business from working for somebody, isn't it? I mean, you take so much more pride in it, and it's a lot more taxing on your brain and takes up so much more time. It's like my dad bought me my first car. Did I look after it? Sort of. When I bought my own first car, I washed it every couple of days. Really looked after it, much to my dad's annoyance. But
no, it's very, very true, and you just wouldn't have it any other way. It's like whenever you're going into a job, you're kind of you're doing the basics. And I know a lot of people will say, oh no, I do this, and this. But you're not really pushing it, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the reward for pushing it. And that's a business, that's employee. I get that. And I agree that I don't think that inside a corporation or a company or a business that employees of that business should get more than what they bring. Unfortunately, that's not capitalism. That's not how it works. And if you then have those individuals that do bring that level, well, they should probably work for themselves, because then they can get the additional rewards and they become more entrepreneurial. They're almost like investors in that they're investing their time, their blood, sweat and tears into their business in order to get the rewards. It's just that simple.
I think I should apologise. There's a bit of banging going on in the background. That's because we've got Emily and Mickey renovating the office next door.
I'll be glad to see how well they're doing after we get out here. Then be a brand new colour and pictures on the walls.
Absolutely. Yeah. So do you? I'm not sure what the differences between you and Robert would be. Is there anything that you could put your hand on? I mean, I know, for instance, Robert, when you sit in a meeting room with him, he comes off with all these ideas that you've never thought of, and you think there's no way he just thought of that. But then you realise through time that you're not really somebody that prepares heavily going into that. You just go as you see it. What about you? So do you prepare for meetings and do you have all these things mapped out, or are you a bit like Robert? Do you just get in and shoot the breeze and take ideas from it?
I do often. I'm a planner. There's no doubt about that. So in my day-to-day, I definitely plan. I've had to adapt a little bit to Robert's style because he likes to, because he moves at a different pace. Some of it's just speed, right? That he injects into the process, which I've learned over time is valuable. It's more valuable than I ever thought. There's significant differences. There's also a lot of similarities in certain things, and I think that dynamic works. I mean, Emily and I couldn't be more different in how things go, and our dynamic works. And then when you group all of us together, even though there's similarities, there is differences, not just height.
No, it's well, you've got to be different in some ways, but I think they complement one another. But
I may have the height, but Stephen definitely has the hair, so you can't have it all.
Yeah, but you're like me. You're ginger. You don't mind losing your hair when you're ginger. It's
it's sort of nobody can call you names in the playground anymore. Although
absolutely.
Anybody that sort of called me a name in the playground, they did live to regret it, Paul, which I'm pretty sure is something similar to you. Well, they're alive of sorts.
What's been the one thing you've been discussing in the last few weeks that Esso and Emily have been here that you're most excited about?
Geez, that's a great question. And what I now have to do is continually talk while I think about the answer.
Just say everything.
I suppose it's a really boring answer, but actually what people need, and I don't mean for Emily, Stephen, Ali, or Mickey. I mean the people who are relying on private label people as a team to help them with their business, and that's actually process. The little bits of the puzzle that connect together are very, very important, and we've identified a number of these that can be created, improved, or even made more efficient, and especially bringing it into almost like a CRM style of system, whereby all the dots are connected, all the communication is connected, it's visible, at times it's automated, and people don't really get to see that piece, but it's the bit that really makes it work, right? And whenever you have a process which is just absolutely nailed, things become very, very seamless. Things become very efficient. And then what you get into is you get into this beautiful, wonderful, luxurious scenario that you never saw it any different. And you don't question it. But when and if you ever got to see something that wasn't as good as that, I'll tell you, you would really see it then, because you're going to see all the bits that other company don't do, or that other team don't provide. But whenever you have it built in, you don't get to see it. But it's great that a lot of people who are coming in will never get to see those inefficiencies, because the process is sitting right there.
Yeah, would you second that, Eso?
Yes, what I would say that's exciting about that, it's funny that Robert brings about the processes, is that for me it becomes driven by the results. We've talked about answering some questions or some issues that people have had, and we've come back with some real answers for many of these pieces. We've talked about making communication better. We've talked about cutting costs, and we've talked about adding speed to everything that we're doing. And to deliver those results, what happens is we start getting excited in the room when pieces start to come together. And when we can attack those processes and we can build efficiencies into each piece of that, when we know we've already cut the cost and we know the speed is there. We were having a conversation this morning of like, we need this now because products are arriving now. We need this today. And before it was we had time. So our problem has become speed. And that's where the efficiency piece comes into play. So it's not, I really get excited about building those processes and watching them become more efficient, but being able to deliver on the, and I don't want to say promises. We said we were going to do something, and our actions are speaking to it, and we don't have to really talk about it. It's happening for people. So the people that are in private label, people are partners that were working with us on products that are, setting up a call with me. I'm talking with them about a product, and then we're going through the logistics of that product and the procurement of that. It's happening quickly, and the pieces are all coming together. That part's really exciting for me.
I think what I really like about what everybody is doing is the fact that it's so much of a collective. In terms of when I get on calls with people and you run it through with them what way private label people is going to be and what the ethos is, you can sort of see them looking at you and the eyes sort of go together a little bit, and it's like, what, really? You're going to do all of that? And it's just different from any other company that I've had experience of working in terms of, right, there's what we do, right, you're our client, you call us when you need us, et cetera, et cetera. But with this, it's so collective in terms of if they do well, we do well, we all do well. And that's something that's really exciting for everybody. If there was one thing that we do all that stuff, but if there was one thing that the members could do, is there something that comes to mind that they could be better at, or that it really requires them to up their game as well?
I think it comes down to commitment. And I know that's sort of thrown in very quickly, and people say that word quite a lot, but to actually mean it, and to not have any escape routes, right? To not have any fallback plans. Because whenever you've got an escape route, if it's there, you'll take it. If you've got a backup, you'll take it. If you've got, something else there that's going to allow you not to put in 100%, not to focus, not to do all of these other pieces. You'll take that other avenue. It's always there. It's a backup plan, right? Well, if you've got a backup plan, then it's always in the back of your mind, right? If you don't have a backup plan, then you put 100% into the plan. Because with a backup plan, you've actually got two plans. When did anybody do really well with two plans? No. You have one plan, you execute it fully, and you keep going at it. It's also that thing of thinking about, growing like a seed, right? Well, if you go out, you plant that seed, and then tomorrow you come out after having done nothing, and then you're checking on its growth. Well, it's not going to have done anything. So what that type of person does is they dig it up and they put it somewhere else. Well, the same thing's going to happen. Like when did that become a good thing? Or when did not watering the seed or taking away the weeds of the seed, when did that ever work? Or when did just throwing the seed into any old area, when did that ever work? But actually taking the seed, finding the fertile ground, taking your time, planting it correctly in good soil, coming out the next day, watering it over and over and over again, and actually seeing no result from that, that's actually where the results come from. So I guess a very long-winded way, Paul, of saying commitment, but correct commitment.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you've probably gathered by now, Robert likes, he's a people's person. I don't think some of the members might understand that until they meet Robert. He likes being with people and talking to people and finding out about them and their business. Are you similar to that? Do you like that? Do you like, if the members are over here for an event, do you like speaking to them, finding out about them, what drives them, etc., etc.?
I do. I in social events, like outside of a business or something like that, I'm probably pretty reserved to myself. But in an environment where we are connected with people for a common denominator, I do take a large interest in what they're doing and what their backgrounds are. I mean, that's been part of my career for a long time, getting to know people. I've always been working with clients or customers on some basis of it. And there's a sense to that is disingenuous sometimes, and that's, I think, what we have talked about with loving what we do and eliminating some of those pieces. Just truly being, I think when I see Robert interact with others or with me, I think what sticks out the most is how genuine the situation is. It's not forced, and that has been something that has been extremely important in my journey forward with this company, and it's been a huge part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great to see, and just to back that up, I mean, I've been watching you guys and in some of the meetings and seeing how you interact with each other, and you guys get on really well. And I think that's great for the members to know, and that there's close personal relationships there too.
Yeah, I think it's like all things. What you don't get to see is actually just as important as what you do get to see. And I think for every partner that works with private label people and with Stephen and Esso, got a slap around the head there. Emily and Ali and Mickey, and obviously yourself, Paul, and the other people too, like Mike, who's on Inside Photography, all the people inside that private label people team. It's the bits that they don't get to see, because those things are replicated, right? It's like all of those people work really well together, but they're actually working really well together on your behalf. And by you, I mean the people listening, the partners inside private label people. That's what they're working towards, because it is a big joint effort, but it's not just a joint effort of the team. It's a joint effort inside what you described as a collective. And I really do like that word, because it really describes the whole idea and the whole ethos of what actually goes on.
Yeah. And it's great that people can see the amount of work goes in, and the Circle platform, for instance, gives us that visibility to people, doesn't it? That transparency, where every day you guys are posting on there as to what has happened that day and what you've been working on. But we're going to wrap it up for now, because I know you guys are busy doing that work. Apologies again for the banging. We don't really have Emily and Mickey renovating. We've got a bakery going in below, and we came in this morning to the lovely smell of fresh baked bread. So you're going to miss this because you're leaving tomorrow, or Friday, sorry. But
that just makes more for us.
Absolutely. Next time. But thanks, guys.
Thank you.